Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you all for joining a first open day of HTEC Days conference. And also, I'm amazed by number of you joined, and I hope that this kind of knowledge sharing will be a ripple for future progress in software development. So now we'll be hosting a really, just a moment, I need to share my screen. Okay, we'll be hosting really interesting panel. Okay. Present. That's it. Okay. So today's panel is future of front-end, pre-rendering, partial rehydration, and progressive enhancement of micro-frontends. I'm Dejan Milošević, Tech Excellence Engineer from HTEC, and my panelists today will be Uroš Karić, also Tech Excellence Engineer, Nemanja Kecman, Senior Software Developer, Aleksandar Šuletić, Tech Excellence Engineer, and Gabor, Fekete, Tech Excellence Engineer. So I'm sure that I gathered the most beautiful team of front-end engineers to discuss this bleeding edge matter of front-end. So let's start. We have a little agenda here. First, we will discuss a little about the current state of front-end and why do we need a new framework. Then we will divide new framework on 3 pillars, that is rendering on the web, partial rehydration, and progressive enhancement. And on the end, we will talk about what is the future and why should we care about these changes that will affect us. So after that, we will have a short panel, and we will talk about this question a bit later. So everything started with this guy. I hope that you all know who it is. This is Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and he created the web as we know it today. So he wanted to connect machines and people, and everything started with simple text at the beginning. So I also want to tell you that 34 years of web will be at 12th of March, and it's some kind. There is some kind of time loop that we are living. I will try to explain why. At the beginning, everything was just a text. So World Wide Web was a simple protocol that was for sharing text between computers all around, first in America, then all around the world. Then we invented hyperlinks, HTML, and CSS for some design. Then we are going to static sites with some amount of JavaScript and interactivity. Then we invented server-side rendering. So we want interactivity also on the back end, plus JavaScript on the front end. Then we invented server-side rendering plus Ajax. Everyone knows jQuery and Ajax in, I don't know, late 2000s and early 2010s. And finally, we get to SPA, single page application. So now it seems like we are going back. So from the SPA, only client-server rendering, we are first try to do some pre-rendering because of the SEO issues and because actually we need to have pre-rendering the pages. Then we invented static site generators. Then we added those static site generation with serverless functions and kind of back to the ecosystem that was exist with the PHP like 10 years ago, maybe even more. And finally, right now, we are in some ecosystem with server-side generation on the back end and islands. This is some new stuff on the front end, and we are all asking what is next and what will be like maybe the future of all of this that is inevitable. So that's why it's kind of the back of the future. So HTML, CSS, and JS plus serverless functions, like who mentioned PHP. So PHP was actually designed to be like serverless function do their job today. So just have one file, and this one file accepts some request and do some response. And besides that, you just serve HTML, CSS, and JS. So we're kind of going back to this, but we're going back because it's better. So does page speed really matter? It was like in some time of jQuery and everything that nobody cared about a bundle size. Nobody cared about time to per byte. Nobody cared about time to interactivity. That was like dark ages, like medieval period of the web. It started about 2004, yes, when WordPress invented. And I think that it lasts now, but it's dying. So this is like a short statistic about, you can see everything in WAPO stats or case study for web.dev, that, but short, long time no read is that speed matters and size matters. So every 100 millisecond faster means 1% of more conversions. And those statistics we didn't get from some small companies, but from Amazon, from Microsoft, from big companies. And later we will find out beside performance and conversion, that there is much more benefit, much bigger benefit, I'm sorry. So this is our new God. It's called Core Web Vitals. So Google is really advanced in this area, but it's not just about Google and SEO, it's about the user experience. So we have a lot of content page, delay, I will not stick long to this. I will mention later. So we decided with all these things matter to invent new 3 pillars of the future web. So all frameworks basically on the web should do 3 simple things. It's routing and rendering view, it's managing state and interactivity, and it's fetching data from the servers. So from all kinds of developers, development from backend and frontend, you can see this as MVC, model view controller. I know that there are a lot more architectural patterns and paradigms, but we actually can translate everything with MVC language. So we identified 3 most important core parts of excellent, new wave of front-end framework. It's pre-rendering, efficient pre-rendering of the markup with the fastest time to first byte and core web vitals. Partial representation, we are talking about composable and the cool micro-frontend islands we'll talk about later, and progressive enhancement. Progressive enhancement here should not be a 3rd pillar, but it will be like a synergy effect, because pre-rendering is for routing and rendering view, and partial representation is for managing state and interactivity, and also for fetching data. But progressive enhancement is 1 + 2, it's bigger than 3. We will see later. Okay, so we're talking about short evolution of server-side rendering to static-side generation. First, we had just server-side rendering, okay. Then we came with the progressive STR that was based with big pipe. I will not stick too much to that. Then we invent static site generation. Then someone came out with the 3rd static generation, and now we have something which is really advanced, and that's incremental progressive pre-rendering. I will talk a little later. So this is about pre-rendering. So point, I don't want to lose too much time because I want to have more time in panel. Point is that we need to have a best of the both worlds of the pre-rendering and static generation and the client-side rendering. So here we have some bullet points that what is the new in this field of front-end development. It's file and convention roots and nested roots. Everybody knows that, maybe from Net.js or Remix. Isomorphic routing, it's routing on both on the server side and front-end side. Stale while revalidate caching, big pipe and parallel streaming. Isomorphic rendering is basically something that it's less known, but is basically the future, because we will involve service workers more and more in the future of front-end. Slice rendering, Gatsby came out with that. Purple, preload the most important transfers, render the initial route as soon as possible. That was from Google, actually. Polymer was doing that. Pre-cache remaining assets and lazy load other routes and non-critical assets. Most notable players in this area was Vercel, Netlify, Net.js, that basically Vercel, okay, Gatsby, and Remix. It's bought by Shopify, certainly. So we see here in this image that client-side rendering gave us first paint on 3 seconds. Server-side rendering gave us first paint on 1.5 seconds, and progressive server-side rendering, which is the this that we are talking about, pre-rendering, gave us first paint on 30 milliseconds, because we ship application shell as soon as we can, because it's static, and then we try to progressive enhance with new data that we want. So here we have a little brief of what was the history of going to this point. So we was like server-side rendering, then we have rendering and activity unite into the single framework, and in the future we will have rendering and activity unite in the silver framework. But apps runs once, clients only execute minimal bytes of interactivity, and here we will introduce something that's called receivability in a new framework that's called Quick and Mark. Okay, so to achieve this, we are going back to this guy. It's called Peter Salas, and he is the father of Unix philosophy with the 3 things that are most important: write programs that do one thing and do it well, write programs to work together, and write programs to handle text streams, because that's an universal interface. So basically, micro-frontends, micro-components, micro-islands, you can call it whatever you want. Point is completely decoupled and composable web based on the web components that are divided and that they're communicating with each other with some interface, and text can be a universal interface. So let's talk about evolution of client-side rendering to partial rehydration. First, we invented full CCR, client-side rendering. That's basically single-page application. Then we had a progressive CCR with a shell. That means that we first introduced application shell, and then we do the same thing as a CCR. As you can see here, both have slow first contentful paint, big bundle, slow time to interaction, big bundle. Then a miracle happened, and someone smart invented partial rehydration. I'm sure that was like a one point in web development that will change everything. But still, we have a big bundle and slow time to interactive. So we came up with pre-rendered progression rehydration, and on the end, on receivability. I will explain what is receivability probably on the next slide. So this is just a small recap. Come to interactivity and first input delay. So we have micro-islands, React micro-frontends, receivability. Streaming server components is also something that we won't care about in this second pillar of new web partial rehydration. And data fetching is something that we didn't mention, but that's becoming a part of serverless architecture. So basically, all data that we are fetching will come from serverless functions. So let's say that this is like diminishing. Most notable players in this area are Astro, sponsored by Netlify right now, by inventing partial rehydration, and Quick by inventing resumability. And we have some honorable mention, but we don't have time right now to talk about that. So this is just a short brief of island architecture. So basically, we are not loading whole application for multiple reasons, because we don't want to have a bandwidth and bundle and slow time to interactivity. So you can see that even if we click on the button or something in some inner component, that will be completely separate of concerns. For example, React is not used by that, and Facebook and Instagram basically use React as that, and that's a really strange thing. And when we are talking about resumability, we have so less time to interactivity, because we don't need to fetch from the server data that we already have in our HTML, and we don't need to execute another bundle of JavaScript. Everything is there, so it's so much faster. I will try to speed this up. So in the end, we have a progressive enhancement. So first, we divide new web not divided. We started by every web application basically doing three things: rendering and rendering view, routing and rendering view, managing interactivity and state, and fetching data. But now we put those in just first two of our three pillars, in pre-rendering and partial rehydration, and third pillar is a synergy effect. So when two first pillars add to each other, we get progressive enhancement, and we have composable web. So what we need to achieve with progressive enhancement, something that we have currently in web, but it's not enabled, it's not empowered. It's progressive web application. It's application shell model and critical CSS above the fold. Softline first web is HTML-driven web. Is CSS-only web. So we need to use CSS only for all the things that we can. It's zero JavaScript web, which is what is the biggest trend right now in 2023. Is full stack graceful degradation. I would like to explain this maybe later in questions. Don't have time now. Compatibility and polyfiling, resumability in full stack state, stability. We need a more accessible web application and sites. So we need to care not only the website is working, but all these matters, including interactivity and SEO, and on the end we will see sustainability, which is the most important. So we want to achieve this. Everyone wants this. So this is the progressive enhancement part of our web application, and third pillar of our I don't know how to say it, but our new paradigm of the web. So here we're having some future bleeding edge paradigms, and just mentioned that maybe for some questions later. WebAssembly, okay, I didn't mention it in the first part of the presentation because this is all about rendering, but WebAssembly is more about computing and for some complex applications. But okay, it certainly be also a big thing. Diffing algorithms in web workers, trisomorphic rendering and service workers, HTML first already mentioned, CSS only and zero JavaScript. Google is coming up with new navigation and transitions APIs. HTML as database and resolvability, incremental building and caching, full stack type safety already there. Big pipes are coming back. N-way data binding. We all know about one-way, two-way, but now there's three-way, even four-way. Isomorphic SQLite, functional web apps, and server full stack. Okay. We have some.
Sorry, Dan, if you go to the next slide, please, and you can enhance your volume because some of the guys don't hear you very well. Your microphone volume.
What?
Like your mic is too quiet.
Okay, I will try to like bring the computer to me. Okay, so just a moment. We have early adopters of the Brave New Web. Some of them you probably heard. It's Astro Build. It's sponsored by Netlify currently. Remix Run, bought by Shopify. Fresh Ultra, Svelte, Solid.js. There's some more. We are just mentioning them, and this is most important part of the presentation. What are the benefits? So with Jamstack plus progressive enhancement, we have scalability. We have less cost of also scaling, also hosting and managing the web application. We have more secure application. We have more performant application. We have better portability, better maintainability, and what is most important, which will come to the end, is sustainability. And from development experience, 0 point of failure. That means that if some developer makes some mistake, there will not be a failure of the whole web in micro-frontend architecture. Lean learning curve. That means that we don't need to learn whole application to be part of it. Just our components that we are working on, and asynchronous and distributed development. That means that we are working in parallel, and we are independent. We don't have blocking between us. So the winner of last year, of course, not this, is this guy. His name is Misko Havery, and he's creator of Quick. Quick is a resumable framework, and you should all check out Quick and Quick City, which is server part of it. And I think that this is right now best candidate for the future of the front-end infrastructure. And what is most important of this paradigm is that is sustainable web. So it's minimal computing on client, minimal bandwidth, and minimal computing on server. And from the business perspective, which we'll talk on our panel, it's more and more important to have social responsibility to the nature and to your environment. So I think that I managed to do this in time that I had. So let's start the panel. First topic is size and speed matters. So digital footprint, performance, and scalability from development perspective. What that means? That means I want to know from you guys, what do you think about all these hypes like digital footprint, performance, and do you care in terms of because most of the clients doesn't care about that. Most of the businesses doesn't care. But from my perspective, it's same to build I need a word like trash depon. I don't know how to say it, and bad software. So that will be a first question for this panel.
Yeah, maybe I can talk a bit more because that is something that is dear and near to my heart, actually, which I think that we have a fundamental problem in the way that we think about the web as something that comes at no cost, because energy expenditure and the way that we are building the apps nowadays is certainly not sustainable in the long run at least. So I guess the first step here would be to maybe enlighten the population about the cost of the apps. Here is one example maybe that many of you in audience might be aware or might not be. Bitcoin has been, I think in the last year, using 3% or even 3.5% of the whole energy capacity of the whole world. And 3.5% might not be a lot, but it is, when you think about it, is a significant. So I guess we need to improve the awareness first, and then work on the ways to actually improve our code to be more efficient. And that, I guess, is the end goal and one of the main topics of this panel.
Okay, but beside digital footprint, there are also there are two things that are interconnected. So better performance means better digital footprint. So it's also more money for the clients in terms of better performance and more sustainable environment. So why then there is not so big hype about this?
Well, if I may, Deki, I think that we nowadays that we will choose when we start to thinking about performance and scalability. Okay, and now we are not so aware of this digital footprint, and we still will choose. For example, you start to worry about scaling, and when you choose what would be your architecture at the beginning, you will choose what is the best for the team at that time, and you will not care about that. I'm not sure, but I think that we are not aware on that level of about all of this buzzword about digital footprint. Okay, I think that this is something that goes really with all these, you know. I want better performance. Okay, I will choose. What will I choose? I will choose micro-frontend architecture. I will choose some knowledge stack, monorepo. I don't know. Tech stack will be that, and that's it. My application will do the work and will do the work great. And that's the main aim. I'm not sure that we are aware of this right now. So that's my opinion. So please.
A small add to that is that when we are thinking about all these architectures and all these solutions and all what is currently available as frameworks and what is capable, we are thinking as developers and we are thinking as individuals who want to make better things. But just from standing from the other point, who needs a website? There are enterprise solutions where these architectures are widely used and really well established. But there are small local places which don't need this scalability and don't need this huge, robust infrastructure, and they are making up a really big part of the web. So we are on two sides of the coin. So we should share the knowledge why these things are good, but we also should leverage with the thing that we have enterprise level infrastructures and we have the pop culture of web development, which is usually someone asks someone, could you make me a site, and just put it out on a domain. And they are not on the same level and they are not scaling the same way. And this is something which takes up a huge percent of the real World Wide Web, which is currently popular in pop culture, so to say, in this era.
Okay. Okay, my opinion is that we need to be more aware about this, but let's go further. So we have a 0 point of failure in this type of software development, especially on micro-frontends. So basically, it's good for companies because it's like on the Facebook. I told you that multiple times. So if chat goes down, only the chat will not working. and everything else will function as well. So it's not a like single point of deployment. So what do you think about this benefit of this kind of software development on the front end?
I'm against this, and not because I think it's bad. As an idea, I think it's great. Each developer has only the piece of the code. No one has everything from a security point. Then you can deploy it in multiple ways. You can like organize your team in multiple ways. But I think in the current state that we would have been so long in a setup where we have everything on our PCs, like you have backend database and everything, you have access to everything as a developer. And I think we need some kind of a transition period to go towards this. If we figure out that this is going to help us in development. And from the business point, I think it's also a problem because especially if you have some lower seniority people, you will have to like give more of the senior colleagues capacity towards them to explain them how to work and to like basically onboard them on the modern and new system. And I think this is possible only in big tech companies and not in the smaller projects where maybe the biggest problem there is how to convince a client to let you use some of the time that you have to work like this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any other?
maybe I would tag into the benefits and the trade-offs. Like anything in software development, we need to look the both ways. And I think that today the initial cost of actually adopting something like this is way too high for smaller teams and smaller enterprises. And only that is basically the privilege of the big ones currently, to experiment, to actually find out what works for them. But in the long run, I think that the nature of the development should move towards the asynchronous and non-blocking. Why? But we had a great example over the last couple of years from work from home, and when the COVID hit, we all went to that mode of working, and it has proven that meetings, at least personally meetings, and all the planning actually takes a lot of capacity out of the real development. So as a way to speed up development, that is certainly something that might happen. And for like 0 point of failure, I don't necessarily agree here. I see the point to it, because it's not about not failing, it's about preventing the catastrophic failures of your application not being usable at all. So that fine granularity could be brought by something like different architecture or the way that we develop and bundle the code. Yeah, so I'm not against it, but I
okay, but you just don't see a big benefit right now, because it's not
right now. No. Yep.
Yes, because it's not implemented.
Actually, this micro-frontend architecture is not so. It's wrapped up in a new shape, but we were having days where we were having these iframes, and all the iframe internals were hosted different places, and basically we introduced some kind of event bus to communicate between each other. These were great. These were secure, so there is a lot of benefit. It's more like it's more like the share ownership, seeing what you are developing is part in what bigger. So decoupling and finding a way to only concentrate on your own responsibility and introduce the solid inside your development method. That's great. But seeing the bigger picture and come up with new ideas and not generalize but improve, that's harder if we are decoupling. So I'm really looking forward to this architecture, and I really want to try out it in different approaches. But still, the communication is what's currently connecting us together, and the clear vision. And there are situations where this vision isn't that clear from a client side, which would introduce a small noise in this approach. But I really am a fan of it.
Okay,
yeah, I would maybe add a little nugget here, because to adopt this, I think we need as a developers to rally around it and make I would say open source initiative to actually present all the different ideas on how this would be approached and solved. Because in closed up systems, I'm pretty sure that Google has it, Facebook has its own way, but in the wild, if you nowadays type how to achieve a 0-point failure architecture, or how to set up micro-frontends, you will find a lot less than what should be there. So I guess creation and bringing the code, I guess, to the developer's hand would also be a huge benefit here. And I think we should all work towards that in POCs or some small projects. Whatever can be open source should actually be open source and improved upon.
Okay, that's fair enough. So let's go together, because we have 2 more points on our panel. So we have escape from slavery, a gradual and sequential rewriting in lean learning curve. This is good, because we have more opportunity to solve code depths, technical depths, because we don't need to rewrite whole applications. We can gradually rewrite part of application, component by component. So what do you think about this? Because I personally know that many big companies do it like this.
I've actually heard that like, I don't know if it's a lie or something. I've read somewhere that like Google rewrites their code base every 2 years or something like that. And I don't think this is like a good or bad question. I think this is actually necessary. And there are a lot of more benefits than just technical depth. So like for the last year, I managed to like teach quite a few people about the like proper clean architecture and ways to write JavaScript according to the best practices by doing the improvement of the project in the same time. So you give them like a module or a feature or something that should be rewritten in a different like, architectural way, or just to improve some of the things that were written bad when they were in a hurry on a project. And quite quickly you see their improvements, and you see the client is happy because the performance of the whole app is improved because of that. And you get like multiple things, like you get a developer experience and you get clients satisfaction. So I think this is actually mandatory practice that every team should like put at least 10 or 20% of the capacity towards.
Yes, of course, but it's not adaptable to monoliths easily.
Well, I think for the front end it is, because whatever framework you're using, you're going to use component-based architecture. So like you just have to like pinpoint the like parts that you can in isolation from the other parts of the app you can rewrite or you can improve in any way.
There are actually situations where something is so legacy that the system is basically bundled together, and maybe the whole monolith is served with Spring Beans. And yeah, you can do fine-tuning with Java to inject some Vue.js or do something fancy. But at the end, the whole logic is in that controller level on the MVC part, and you will not be able to access. The best case scenario you can do is basically spend some time and introduce an API layer, which you can migrate to and basically cut yourself from the backend from direct generation, but it will introduce the same thing. I think this architecture is really good for this, because just think about there are a lot of legacy technologies which were used heavily in BAM projects and other situations. And we are still a COBOL or a Fortran developer is still very highly paid because of the knowledge he has. But with this architecture, we can easily introduce a way of thinking like, okay, if we can do this, let's make it legacy. Let's rewrite something small which suits the need and just switch it. So I think this is a great thing. From if it's built up from start to meet this is a great thing.
Okay, we have last one. Just a moment, please. So this is about business perspective. And can we beat the iron triangle with this approach to front end? So do you know what is the iron triangle? It's like you cannot have all three of speed, quality, and what was the third one? But I'm sure that you all know. But I think that with this approach, we can go near to the more productive development from the business perspective. What do you think about it?
Well, you will always need to trade something, you know. It looks like it looks like that, you know. But
it was
okay.
Speed, quality, and cost. Yes, through the speed cost. So this will be cheaper, faster, and with more quality.
Exactly. You showed now really in this presentation a lot of new frameworks and type of hydrations that they use, and they will provide speed, smaller bundle, and so on. But you know, always some of those three will will fail. So I don't know. This is my opinion for now. But you know, I don't know. We have those three big frameworks that just sitting and wait, and I think that the React Angular Vue, they didn't say the last word about all of that. They all tracking all that and sitting and wait to implement some new features. So okay, we will wait. We have new features, so maybe
about the cost,
they will surprise us. I hope.
About the cost part, I'm just interested if we introduce an architecture like this, what would be the cost to host it anywhere? So you have a NAS basically and put something static on it and it's free. Okay, so to say free, but you have some kind of huge architecture like this. What is the maintenance cost of it? So I'm not saying we are removing costs, but we are migrating it to somewhere else.
No, hosting is actually cheaper because everything is static. So you don't have any computing on the server except some serverless functions that are also like cheap right now. So
okay. Serverless is also not that cheap, but yeah, I agree. So it's cheaper. It can be cheaper.
Jamstack is actually cheaper. It's not just about cost of hosting. It's a cost about maintenance and scalability of development, not scalability of application by itself, but scalability of the development of application. It's not same thing. This is about can we host it? We have millions of users, and other is about can we develop more features if we have a million of users. So in this type of front-end architecture, both are more scalable and more maintainable, more cheaper and everything. So a crucial question is why then we don't adopt new technology easily then
because the cost of adoption of the new things is usually pretty steep. And if we as a developers, we naturally would like to work with the most modern stuff, the bleeding edge, but the reality is that first of all, somebody has to lead and actually invest the time to gain expertise in such fields, and then trickle down the expertise towards the organization. And business, in my opinion, is pretty not receptive to the technology as a technology. But if we bundle cost savings and prove that the actual benefits far outweigh the risk at the beginning, I think we can make the move. But the reality today is that no matter how great something is, unless we have a strong case that it would bring a lot of revenue for business, I think it will just fall flat. That brings me to what I told before, is that small companies usually don't have the luxury of thinking in such a way, while the big enterprises can actually afford themselves to experiment in such a ways. So I guess the trade-off, like anything in the development.
Yeah, I mean, it could look like whenever a new technology pops up, we rewrite the whole system, right? So it's not really possible. What I wanted to say, because I'm guessing we're nearing the end, is I tried all of those hype new frameworks. I think they're really cool. Some of them give you headaches, some of them are great, but like they're still so far away from the big three. And maybe Svelte will become one of them, so we will maybe have like big four. But like I think they have so much time to like wait and see what's gonna be good from Quick or from Astro. And then when they see that it's popular, they can always implement it in their own systems. So I don't think we need to invest now in even thinking like, oh, should we rewrite our system to Quick? Because the knowledge base is too small. If you have too much junior developers, you don't have enough documentation, you don't have enough plugins that you need. So I think we're for now fine, but I think we need to stay up to date with these things because these are really important, especially for the sides, especially because most of the people are using mobile phones now, PCs. So I think that everyone should try out those new frameworks, but wait and see what the big companies have in store for us, especially Google and Facebook with their frameworks.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to say this before we will go to the question and answers, that it's same with all big companies. So, and big companies are bureaucratic and they lose lose a movement with the technology. That can be that's happening also with the frameworks. So, point that you says that Angular, Vue, and React will listen to those guys and implement everything. It's not so much good point because they will implement it without listening. They will do research and development by themselves.
Well, maybe, but like you can actually hear the guys from the core Angular like team that they are saying, okay, we're looking into this and we are like deciding what do we need to focus on. And I'm not even if I'm like I do Angular the most, I'm not on their side. They are really slow on implementing new things. Where React already has, I think, like React server components in the beta, and they are planning to release it soon, which is like data fetching on the server and components on the server, which like, sounds great for the optimization and for everything. It could solve a lot of problems. Angular is really slow in adopting those things. But all of them are literally saying, we're looking into this, we're deciding, is this really going to be, I mean, after all, Google is a company that always developed the things in that way. They invented a really small portion. Most of the things they did was take an idea and improve it and then publish it. So I'm not gonna yet give up on them, but if they don't change anything, I will have to.
Yeah,
okay,
we don't need to implement everything, just one feature, that feature which is hype, and they will again gain the public, you know.
Okay, we don't have much time left, so if there is something in QA, mostly there are some questions about the audio. I'm sorry about the audio. It's not my fault. I hope
it's good
that you everybody hear me. I don't know what happened. So if there are some other questions, we will be happy to answer it. If not, we can close this panel.
Maybe any frameworks with audio.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
everyone.